आज अरेस्ट होना चाहिए। माधवी बुच जो हैं, जो उनकी प्रोटेक्टर हैं, जिन्होंने कोई इन्वेस्टिगेशन नहीं किया, उनको हटाया जाना चाहिए, उन पर इन्वेस्टिगेशन होना चाहिए। जेपीसी की मांग हमारी है, बट हम चाहते हैं कि अदानी जी को एकदम अरेस्ट किया जाए। और हम जानते हैं और हम देश को दिखाना चाहते हैं कि अदानी जी की अरेस्ट नहीं होगी। और इसलिए नहीं होगी क्योंकि हिंदुस्तान के प्रधानमंत्री अदानी जी के पीछे खड़े हुए हैं और उनके प्रोटेक्टर हैं।
Viewers, you've heard Rahul Gandhi's soundbite from November last year when he demanded the arrest of industrialist Gautam Adani, and the basis on which the entire Modani campaign was run by the Congress was a report by US-based short seller which has now decided to shut its shop. We're talking about Hindenburg Research, which was behind allegations of financial wrongdoings against the Adani Group and SBI chairperson. Its founder announced the decision to disband the firm, citing intense and all-encompassing nature of the work as a reason. Now, Hindenburg's decision to pack up has triggered a political storm here in India, slamming Rahul Gandhi. The BJP has asked, has the contract to take on the Indian state now been awarded to the Congress MP and leader of opposition? The BJP is also asking if the Hindenburg report was sponsored by India beta George Soros. Meanwhile, the Congress party says that Hindenburg closing down doesn't mean a clean chit to the Modi government and Gautam Adani.
ये दुकान क्यों बंद हो गई और जिस दिन कांग्रेस का कार्यालय खुला उस दिन बंद हो गई? हिंडनबर्ग अपनी दुकान बंद कर रहा है तो क्या राहुल जी उसकी दुकान का ठेका आपको मिल गया है क्या? इंडियन स्टेट के खिलाफ गैर जिम्मेदाराना हरकत कौन करता है? हिंडनबर्ग करता है।
तो राहुल गांधी जी, आज सवाल आपसे है कि हिंडनबर्ग ने तो मतलब आपके विदेशी अलायंस पार्टनर ने तो ताला बंद कर दिया, आप अपना प्रोपेगेंडा कब बंद करेंगे भारत के खिलाफ?
एक रिसर्च संस्था है, उसके मालिक ने घोषणा की है कि वो रिसर्च संस्था वो बंद करने वाले हैं। इसका माने ये नहीं है कि मोडानी को एक क्लीन चिट मिला है।
वी आर कंसर्न अबाउट द कंटेंट ऑफ द रिपोर्ट दैट इज टू बी इन्वेस्टिगेटेड एंड बीजेपी सेमलेसली standing with the loot.
Let's now take a look at how the Congress party has persisted with the Modani campaign, even as the Supreme Court held that the short sellers report cannot be considered as gospel truth. This is really what we're talking about. In fact, what Supreme Court has said is that, when we've seen the attack take place, we've seen, of course, old photos being shown in Parliament. We've seen, of course, also what the Supreme Court has said. It has observed that the Hindenburg is not a gospel truth. This is the first observation. The second attack has been that the term Modani was coined to attack the government. Supreme Court has observed that can't make assumptions based on a report. The third line of attack is that there was a Modi Adani Ek Hai t-shirt that was worn to the Parliament House. Supreme Court had observed earlier that no material to doubt SEBI's investigation has thus far come out. The fourth line of attack was a demand for a JPC probe as far as the Hindenburg report is concerned. We have also seen what the Supreme Court has said in this context, that the probe, if investors have lost money, should be conducted, particularly given that there was short selling believed to have been done. We've also seen how there was, in fact, Ek Hai slogan that was mocked with a safe stunt, and the observation that investigative laws were violated by the short sellers. These are observations as far as the Supreme Court is concerned. Let's now open this up for debate.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Let's take this across to our guest now. Joining us is Sanju Verma, national spokesperson of the BJP. Ishkaran Bhandari, advocate of the Supreme Court, is with us. We also have with us Lokesh Jindal, political analyst. Sanjay Hegde, and senior advocate, is also with us. Joining us is Akhilesh Katiyar, national spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. Let me start with you first, Lokesh. The question is this, that today you have Hindenburg, which primarily brought up all of these allegations. We know there was a huge storm in Parliament. There was a lot of disruption, a lot of brouhaha surrounding the allegations that came out of the Hindenburg report. But with the organization now, in fact, wrapping up, there are serious questions as to the kind of report and the assertions that were made, given that nothing really has been proved in any court of law as far as the Hindenburg itself is concerned. Lokesh.
Good evening, everybody. The issue is not whether Hindenburg is wrapping up its operations, but the point is Hindenburg exposed various fault lines which exist in our securities market, and we saw that this report was capable of wiping out billions of rupees. It brought about tremendous loss to the investors, and in fact later we saw the SEBI chief was also summoned by the parliament, and various forms of measures have been taken, but the due reports have not yet been submitted. Madhav, the point is, has the government come up with certain forms of measures in lieu of the revelations by the Hindenburg report? The answer is no. Even now, we are not having a set of norms, corporate governance, which ensures that the investors' money is safe. Even now, we have various fault lines within the Act, within exploitation of double taxation avoidance agreement. We have various loopholes with respect to base erosion, profit shifting, and other form of practices which are exploited by the corporate entities. And the government has not yet come up with any form of a concrete. For example, we had Congress coming out with
several allegations there. Sanju Verma, I'm going to give you a chance to rebut that, because one of the things that Nate Anderson in his statement, I'm sure you've read it, he says, boy, did we have an impact more than I imagined was possible at the outset. Nearly 100 individuals have been charged civilly, criminally by regulators, at least in part through our work, including billionaires and oligarchs. We shook some empires that we felt needed shaking. Can we just say that our rubbish, everything that the Hindenburg has done over the past several years? Sanju Verma.
Madhav, first and foremost, Nathan Anderson is a much maligned and discredited short seller. Short selling is a legitimate stock market activity, but not when you gather information to run down and short sell stocks nefariously. That is an economic crime, akin to what George Soros did way back in 1992, when he had information which nobody had in the public domain, and he broke the back of the pound sterling in 1992. And then when he gathered information nefariously and created the infamous Asian crisis of 1997. So point number one, short selling per se is not bad, but short selling by gathering information about a company or a group or a corporate entity through nefarious means and then taking a position to run down that stock, that is illegitimate and is akin to a crime. That is also the reason why you had the former head honcho of Goldman Sachs and McKinsey, two of the largest investment banking firms, their head honchos had to face prison time in the US. Now let me come to the moot point. Hindenburg's attack, Nathan Anderson's attack on Adani Group is not something that has to be looked at in isolation. If you recall, Madhav, every time Nathan Anderson spoke about Adani, he said that the State Bank of India, one of the largest public sector banks in India, he said they have a disproportionate exposure to the Adani Group and that State Bank of India is about to go bankrupt. Whereas the hard truth is that in the last financial year, State Bank of India posted record profits and in the last 4 years, Madhav, State Bank of India has posted net profit of 1.63 lakh crore, which is more than the profit of State Bank in the preceding 45 years. So this was a coordinated attempt to undermine the credibility of India's largest public sector bank, the State Bank of India, whose asset base alone is equal to twice the GDP of Bangladesh. क्योंकि कुछ लोगों को बांग्लादेश से बहुत प्यार है. Then let me tell you one more thing.
Sanju, you made 3 or 4 very important points. I want, Sanju, once again, because you made very important points, I'm going to come back to you. I want those specific points to be answered because you made a very important point on short selling and also, of course, the point on SBI. I want to get a response from Sanjay Hegde on those because these are slightly complex legal issues. Sanjay Hegde, one point is this, and I'm quoting from what the Supreme Court said about, with the Hindenburg report, wiping out a lot of market capitalization. The Supreme Court had said the loss which is sustained by Indian investors as a result of, volatility due to short positions should be probed. Is this not a valid concern? Because, Sanju Verma says that short selling, while in itself may not be an offense, the point is that there is a deliberate attempt at creating certain situations which is a criminal offense. And also, of course, the kind of targeted attacks on SBI, so on and so forth, is an attempt at maligning India, weakening India, is the charge that the BJP has consistently made. Both those points, your response, Sanjay Hegde.
Okay, firstly, what did the Supreme Court say and in what context did it say it? The Supreme Court said what it said in the context of a demand for a special investigation team or a CBI probing into whatever had come out in the Hindenburg report. The Supreme Court says, no, look, the SEBI report is there, that is comprehensive, and we will not order it. So in that, they said, if you want to take action against Hindenburg, right now, to the best of my knowledge, there is nothing which is on the lines of a probe ordered into the Hindenburg short selling. Now, there are several things that the Hindenburg episode has taught you. The first thing is that a short seller outside India can take short selling positions through certain market mechanisms. So that certainly makes Indian stocks vulnerable. Yesterday it was Adani, tomorrow it may be something else. Have you done anything to check whether there was criminality? Have you filed an FIR? I don't think anything of that has come in the public domain, at least not to my knowledge. Have you shut all the doors that the Hindenburg report has shown you? That also we do not know. After the Supreme Court judgment, more stuff came out, especially with regard to the SEBI chief. What action have you taken? Somebody did mention that she was summoned by Parliament, but if I remember rightly, she did not even come in front of the parliamentary committee. And so all in all, what's happened is that you have had a report. Okay. The body has shut down. It's like saying that Times Now put out an investigative piece on somebody. Supposing, God forbid, that Bennett Coleman shut down. Does the validity of the story go away?
Sir, no, please don't compare the two. One is a report by a short seller, the other is a legitimate media organization.
No,
I think that modicum of difference, Sanjay Hegde, even you will afford us.
Let me put it. Okay, on Bennett Coleman and its financial newspapers.
We are not the subject of debate. Why are you drawing us into this, Sanjay Hegde?
Okay.
Your point that you have made,
fine.
the point that you have made, nevertheless, Sanjay Verma, I want her to respond to it. Sanjay Verma, please respond to the larger point that he is making as far as what the impact in terms of the investigation is concerned. If Supreme Court has said that investors' rights have to be protected, and perhaps rightly so, where's the investigation? Has any investigation been ordered into Hindenburg? That's the question. And of course, you heard what Sanjay Hegde has to say otherwise as well. Please respond, Sanju.
You know, Madhav, I don't wish to make this personal. I don't wish to dignify the reckless statements made by Sanjay Hegde. Your audience needs to listen to this very carefully, Madhav. Today, this entire cabal, Rahul Gandhi, Jairam Ramesh, Pawan Khera, and the other retainers of the Congress party have a nice big fat omelette on their face because Hindenburg was used to trash India's financial system. Hindenburg was used to run down the Indian economy and create false narratives. Hindenburg and Nathan Anderson were treated as the gospel of truth by the Congress cabal, and they also went to the extent of saying that the Life Insurance Corporation of India, LIC, you know, LIC has an exposure to almost every Indian. You, me, our fathers, mothers, grandfathers, you know, our children, nephews, nieces, aunts, uncles, in some form or the other. LIC is something that they are invested in. और इन्होंने क्या कहा? That LIC, which has an asset base of more than $620 billion, इन्होंने कहा because of LIC having disproportionate exposure to the Adani group, not only SBI, even LIC will go bankrupt.
Okay.
थोड़ी शर्म नहीं आई? They are trying to attack India's financial system.
Let me now bring in.
They're asking questions of the BJP.
Okay.
They need to answer questions today.
Let me bring in the Samajwadi Party.
Short seller.
Okay, let me bring in समाजवादी पार्टी. अखिलेश कटियार, सवाल ये उठता है कि पिछले पार्लियामेंट सेशन में जब राहुल गांधी जी प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे थे, वो आपने देखा होगा तरह तरह के बैग्स, टी शर्ट्स, स्लोगन्स वगैरह वगैरह लेके प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे थे. उस समय समाजवादी पार्टी, टीएमसी वगैरह अलग हो गई थी. आप कह रहे कि दूसरे मुद्दे थे जो उठाने चाहिए. आज फिर आप राहुल गांधी के समर्थन में आ गए. तो आखिर आपके स्टैंड में भी कुछ कंसिस्टेंसी की कोई इश्यूज हैं, ऐसा लग रहा है?
नहीं माधव साहब, जो बात अभी हमारी भारतीय जनता पार्टी के प्रवक्ता बोल रही हैं, ये देश हिंडनबर्ग या उस देश से कोई भी संस्था कुछ करे, इस देश का कुछ नहीं बिगड़ेगा. यहाँ के किसान, मजदूर और 140 करोड़ लोगों ने 75 साल में मिलकर इस देश को बनाया है. दूसरा बात यह है कि जो एक सवाल आम आदमी के नागरिक में जिन लोगों ने पैसे लगाए, छोटे इन्वेस्टर थे, उनके दिमाग में अगर एक अविश्वास पैदा हुआ था तो उसको दूर करने के लिए सरकार के प्रयास कितने ईमानदारी भरे थे, एक सवाल तो यह खड़ा होता है। और दूसरी बात कि आज अगर हिंडनबर्ग ने एंडरसन के बारे में हम कुछ भी बात करें, उनकी नीयत कैसी है, क्या है, वो एक अलग विषय है, लेकिन देश के लोगों में ये सवाल, एक आशंका पैदा हुई थी, उसे उन्हें सही जवाब मिलना चाहिए था।
अडानी साहब, आप इस मुद्दे को लेकर प्रोटेस्ट क्यों नहीं कर रहे थे कांग्रेस के साथ?
उस पर बहस करने का मुद्दा नहीं है।
नहीं, अगर आप जवाब इतना चाह रहे थे तो पिछले पार्लियामेंट सेशन पे आप कांग्रेस से अलग क्यों हो गए थे, आप और तृणमूल कांग्रेस?
जी,
उस वक्त क्या हो गया था?
माधव साहब, उस समय संसद का सत्र थोड़ा छोटा था और किसान और मजदूर और उत्तर प्रदेश के इतने महत्वपूर्ण मुद्दे थे, संबल जैसे, उन मुद्दों पे मेरे नेता का प्रयास था कि उस पर विचार हो, उस पर बहस हो। और आज भारत के प्रधानमंत्री जो बहुत मजबूती से डॉलर के मामले, रुपया कमजोर हो रहा, उस पर भाषण करते थे। माधव साहब डेली दिन पर दिन देख रहे हैं रुपए की हालत क्या हो रही है, एक बार बात तो उस पर भी जवाब दे।
Okay, let me come one by one. Ishkaran, I want to bring in Ishkaran on this because Ishkaran, whatever position the Samajwadi Party may have taken, whatever flip-flops they're doing, that apart, one thing that the Congress has said today, and this is what Lokesh also referred to in his first comments that we had on the debate, they are saying that this is not just about Hindenburg. Of the 100 questions that we have asked, only 20 are based on Hindenburg. There are several other questions that also need to be asked as far as propriety, as far as the government itself is concerned, and there are questions that come out of this episode. Your response, Ishkaran.
Madhav, firstly, as a matter of law, any attempt to threaten the economic security of India comes under the category of a terrorist attack. And to my mind, Hindenburg was a special purpose vehicle to A, destabilize the Indian economy, to B, short circuit the Indian economy, short sell the stocks and gain profits by peddling fake news, false news, creating news not based on facts but based on support by certain people in India so that you make humongous profit. And three, of course, as George Soros himself in his own words after the Hindenburg report said that this may lead to a regime change in India, the change of Prime Minister. So to my mind, it fulfills all the parameters of an economic attack on India, and that needs an SIT to investigate. Please understand, there are politicians in India who openly say they are in a fight with the Indian state. Now, how do you fight an Indian state when those politicians say that the judges, they have made so many scandalous remarks, that political parties on judges, then they doubt the election commission, then they doubt the investigative agencies. So the ways left to them is to get foreign support. That has unfortunately also been the history of India, where from the Ghazni Ghori times, for domestic Indian disputes, there are certain people who seek foreign support. That is again replaying in current situation. So my mind is very clear on this issue. Yes, there needs to be an investigation by an SIT because it's not Hindenburg. Tomorrow some new vehicle for the same purpose could come to destabilize the Indian economy, and economic attacks are as serious as an attack with a bomb. In fact, some say more serious because they can have repercussions throughout the country. Okay. And everybody who benefited by the Hindenburg report needs to be investigated and punished in appropriate cases.
Okay. Economic offences are perhaps even more, damaging for the country than, physical terrorist attacks. That's assertion coming in from... Sharon, please respond to that. Beg your pardon. Sanjay.
You're asking me. Okay,
Sanjay,
fine.
yeah.
Firstly, you must remember that Hindenburg did not only target Adani. There were 7 other big corporates, including Twitter and Jack Dorsey, who also were the subject of short selling. At different times during the lifetime of the Hindu. None of the other countries have taken it as an attack on their sovereignty. Short selling, informed short selling, and telling people that you're short selling is part of any economic model which keeps corporates honest. If corporates are inflating their earnings, or alternatively, here in the Hindenburg report, what he basically said was that the entire Adani empire was built on a mountain of debt. That mountain of debt was so huge that there wasn't enough to service that debt. He pointed out that possibly that if that mountain came crashing down, there would be consequences on the lenders. This is the long and short of what the Hindenburg report said.
But there were consequences for Indian investors also, sir.
Yes. There will be consequences for all investors Indian or Cypriot or anybody who's invested in the stock.
Okay, many hands going up.
When there is a bear attack.
Yeah.
Bear attacks are not unknown in... Please let me finish.
Quickly conclude your point, please. Yeah.
Bear attacks, whether domestic or foreign, are not unknown whenever a share...
Okay, so your point is that it was all declared, so it's all kosher. Many hands going up. I'm going to give Ishkaran a chance to counter that. Ishkaran.
No. Yes. Madhav, short selling per se, there is nothing wrong with that. Say the way there is nothing wrong with fire. In fact, civilization is built on fire. But you can't somebody's house on fire. That becomes a crime. In other countries, there were not political parties relying on a report. Nobody said because Twitter is into certain activities, entire Twitter is in hand and glove with the then president, and they all need to resign, which was happening in Hindenburg report, where leading politician activists were trying to bring down the Indian economy, bring down the business group, potentially bring down the government. That is an economic coordinated attack. So they are two very different categories. And lastly, I will just say, why has Hindenburg stepped down does not mean Hindenburg is guilty or not guilty, but it definitely merits an investigation.
Okay.
Because
Sanju Verma, quick comment. Sanju Verma, almost out of time. Quick comment, please.
Madhav, my simple point is this. When the IMF said that thanks to Narendra Modi, India will become the world's 4th largest economy, overtaking Japan in 2025, Rahul Gandhi says we don't believe the IMF. When the World Bank says that Ayushman Bharat is one of the world's most inclusive healthcare insurance scheme, Supriya Shreya, Pawan Khera, Akhilesh Yadav said, "Arey, World Bank kaun si cheez hai? Hum World Bank par vishwas nahi rakhte." When JP Morgan, one of the world's largest investment banks, says that digital India under Prime Minister Modi, wherein India accounts for more than 48% of digital global financial transactions, is an ode to Modinomics. The same Rahul Gandhi और इनके जितने चिंटू मिंटू हैं, जैसे JP Morgan.
So you are saying this is consistently the position that is taken whenever it's talking about India's economic growth or well-being. There are consistent positions which are adversarial that are being taken, which are not in India's interest. That's the position that has been taken by the BJP. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this evening. Sanju Verma, Ishkaran Bhandari, Lokesh Jindal, Sanjay Hegde, and Akhilesh Katyar. Thanks so much for joining us on debate number 1.